October is finally here. Cooler and longer nights is perfect in the northern hemisphere for astrophotography. It's time to dust off that scope and cover my top 5 targets for imaging. Number 1, as you might guess, is planets. In the early evening in the southwest, you can find Venus before the sun has fully set. This month, it is currently at about half crescent, and while you will not necessarily get any detail on the surface of Venus, you can definitely get the crescent shape with a moderately sized telescope. Waiting a little bit further into the evening brings us the night sky, and in particular over in Capricornus is Saturn, which is a ring planet with all its moons right here, and Jupiter following it up with its set of moons. Now note that these will pretty much be in the night sky this time of year for the next 3 to 4 years, but they will slowly be moving east as the Earth and they rotate around the sun at a slightly different rate. Which brings us to my second target for October. There's still a lot of very cool summer targets available, such as the Lagoon and Trifid nebulas, as well as, if we go more north, the small Sagittarius star cluster, the Omega Nebula, and also the Eagle Nebula, famous for those pillars of creation. While they are early evening targets, as they will start to set as the night goes on, if you haven't had a chance to grab them during the summer, now is definitely a time to grab them, because after this month, they are going to be set pretty much as the sun goes. So grab them now or wait till next year. My third recommended target is similar to the southern summer targets, which is the Cygnus constellation targets. There's definitely a lot here, including the Crescent Nebula, the Inchworm Cluster, a lot of different types of nebulosity here. There's also the Eastern and Western Veil and the Pickering Triangle, and it is up in the sky until about 2-3 in the morning, so it definitely is still a valid target. But again, similar to the summer targets, by November it's going to be very low in the sky or dropping early evening. So you definitely want to grab these now. And this brings us to looking towards what's rising in the east. Now, in the Perseus, Auriga, and Taurus location, there are definitely some really good targets for beginners to intermediate and advanced. I'm going to start here with the Pleiades Nebula, very common, 7 sisters. It's an easy one to find in the night sky. It's very easy to take a picture of, and definitely can benefit from some really long exposures for those who want to put a full evening into it. Beside it, and definitely far fainter, and thus a little bit more difficult, is the California Nebula. This region of hydrogen alpha is quite a large expanse, and it is definitely something that intermediate to expert level astrophotographers really enjoy trying to get a photo of. For those who are interested in something, not so easy but not as difficult, there is the Agula cluster of DSO objects, including the Flaming Star Nebula, the Spider Nebula, the Fly Nebula, and the Starfish cluster. You can see here in this photo that I've taken that these are actually able to be captured with a relatively small telescope. I did this with the Red Cat, but you can also use a higher magnification scope to really get into some of those finer details of the various targets in this cluster. And they're not hard to find, as they are basically in the center of Constellation with several stars, Messiah, Atheral, and Hasalom. I'm probably pronouncing those badly, apologies, where you can just sort of, cross between them to find that part of this night sky, and at that point, it's just a matter of framing. Which brings us to our last target of the night that I'm going to make a recommendation as. And you can probably already see it on the screen here, and that is the Orion constellation. Now, it rises about 1 o'clock in the morning, but it's about 2 or 3 o'clock where it's really going to get above the haze depending on your location. And then you can continue to image it until sunrise. Now, anyone who's familiar with The Orion constellation, this needs no introduction, but for anyone who is sitting here saying, what should I be aiming for? If you are a beginner, there's the Great Orion Nebula. This is absolutely famous, and it's a very easy target to find in the night sky because it is visible with your naked eye. There's also the Running Man Nebula just north of it here that you can capture with pretty much any beginner equipment. For those looking for a little bit more advanced target, there is the Alcanic star, which if you focus on that, you do get the Dark Horse Nebula and the Flame Nebula. Generally, you can grab those both at the same time. They do make a really nice combo. And they are easy to find because you just basically have to point at the star. And then for those who are advanced users and want to really try for something neat, there is the Witch Head Nebula. Now, this area here does require quite a bit of a wide telescope to capture the whole thing, but it is there and it is quite faint, so it is definitely an expert level target to try to get if you wish to go for it. So those are my 5 targets in the night sky that I highly recommend. And if you want a bonus, there's always the Triangular Galaxy up here, and of course, Andromeda. There's always Andromeda. You can almost always take a picture of this, unless you're really, really far south. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a like, consider subscribing for more content, and I hope for you in the month of October, the clearest of clear skies. Thanks for watching.